The arrival of the Titan. The outer rim of Union-controlled space had always been quiet. Too quiet. For centuries, it was the dumping ground of forgotten satellites and obsolete outposts, a galactic afterthought. That changed the moment the Titan arrived. It came without warning. No transponder, no IFF signature, no diplomatic preamble. Just a single enormous blip on every long-range sensor within 3 star systems. At first, the Union dismissed it as a sensor ghost, a glitch. Then the outpost on Zalari 4 went dark. No warning, no distress signal, just silence. And silence in the void was never a good sign. Within minutes, sensor arrays across the sector triangulated the source. An unclassified warship, easily 3 times the size of the Union's dreadnoughts, was drifting toward Union territory at sublight speed. The vessel's hull shimmered with an alloy no known scan could penetrate. Its silhouette was a wedge of destruction, shaped like an ancient blade flanked by spinal-mounted weapons that radiated energy signatures no one could classify. The bow alone was the size of a city, and the ship moved with deliberate, terrifying calm. Union Command went into full alert. Admiral Gotar of the Zeller Dominion stood aboard the bridge of the warship, Vorax clawjaws clenched as his eyes locked on the holo display. "What the hell am I looking at?" he hissed. His sensor officer, a younger Zilar barely past his first combat cycle, swallowed audibly. "Admiral, the readings are inconsistent. We've scanned it multiple times, but the ship's armor it's absorbing our scans. It's not just stealth, it's like the hull eats our signals," Gotar snarled. "Weapons, no active charge detected," sir, the officer said. But what?" The officer hesitated. "There's a spinal-mounted array that's emitting enough residual power to match the combined batteries of our entire sector fleet." The silence that followed was absolute. That was impossible. The Vorax Claw was one of the finest warships in the Union, and it was only one of 100 patrolling this region. Together, they were supposed to be untouchable. Yet this thing, Gotar's claws tapped the arm of his command throne. "How close is it?" 50,000 clicks and closing. Gotar's voice dropped to a growl. "Get me the Council, now!" Back in the core systems, emergency transmissions screamed across encrypted channels. The Galactic Council convened within the hour, something that hadn't happened since the Koran uprising 2 centuries ago. A massive circular chamber filled with flickering holograms, each representing a major species in the Union, erupted in noise. "This is an act of war," barked the delegate from the Alari Confederation, her golden plumage bristling. "They have not fired," countered a representative of the Cry Collective, a translucent being of flowing liquid light. "We must ascertain their intent. They crossed our border to see." VX Warlord roared, pounding a fist into the table. "That thing is not a courier ship." At the center of the chamber, seated in a raised platform encircled by high-energy shielding, was Supreme Chancellor Oro, the ancient and still as stone. His cerulean eyes glowed faintly as he raised a tendril. The chamber fell into silence. "We do not know who they are. We do not know what they want," Orotha said, his voice smooth but heavy with tension. "But make no mistake, this vessel was sent to be seen." His words rang with truth, because the ship hadn't cloaked itself, hadn't jammed sensors, hadn't even sped toward its destination. It was drifting visible, deliberate, monstrous. Not hiding, announcing. Orotha turned to his intelligence chief. "Origin." The reply was a whisper. "Human." That single word shattered the room. For decades, the humans had been considered a minor species, technologically primitive, politically fractured, denied full membership into the Union. Their planet Earth was a backwater useful only for resource trade and biological study. And yet, they had built this. Chancellor Orotha exhaled slowly, then spoke the words that would echo across the stars. "Contact the human government, immediately." But no message came, no transmission, no envoy. Just the slow, unstoppable approach of the Titan. And when the reply finally arrived, it wasn't a diplomatic message. It was 5 words. 5 cold, calculated words. "We are done being ignored." The transmission repeated once, then cut. The chamber was dead silent. In that moment, every being present understood one thing. Humanity hadn't come to talk. They had come to take their place. A message without words. The Titan did not accelerate. It did not cloak. It did not broadcast a second message. It simply drifted forward, silent, enormous, inevitable. A steel leviathan cutting through the stars with the slow menace of a predator that knew no fear. In the command chamber of the Vorax Claw, Admiral Gotar stood frozen in his thoughts, a whirlwind of disbelief. Every instinct screamed at him to fire, to do something, but the fear hanging in the air was like a noose around every throat on the bridge. "This is impossible," he muttered. The humans were behind, obsolete. His second-in-command, Commander Tar, spoke quietly. A century ago, yes, but now, Gotar's jaw clenched. The Dominion had crushed rebellions, glassed worlds, and fought rival empires for centuries. But this was no rebellion. This was something worse. This was a statement. Across the galaxy, systems lit up with alerts. Long-range surveillance arrays attempted to scan the Titan. They failed. The ship's hull devoured sensor pings like they were flies against armor. Military AI flagged the ship as a high-threat anomaly, then upgraded it to extinction level after detecting the residual energy signatures pulsing from its spine-mounted weapon arrays. No species in the Union had ever fielded such armament. Not the Zaith, not the Cry, not even the fanatical VX who measured worth by fleet tonnage. This was something new. No one said it out loud, but the implications screamed into every mind. If the humans had this, what else were they hiding? In the heart of the Galactic Council complex on Valera Prime, another emergency session had begun. This one was smaller, no reporters, no public feeds. Just the Union's highest-ranking strategists, admirals, and intelligence heads gathered around a projection of the Titan's approach vector. Supreme Chancellor Orotha leaned forward, his hands steepled beneath his chin. "No fleet has moved against it?" he asked. His military aide shook his head. "None. Every admiral we've contacted has refused to engage without direct orders." Orotha nodded slowly. "Because they're afraid. They should be," muttered an old VX general. "You don't park a warship that size on our doorstep unless you want a reaction." "Or a reckoning," said the Alari delegate, her feathers puffed with unease. Orotha exhaled through his nostrils. "What I want to know is how. How did humanity hide this?" Silence. The Union's intelligence network was vast, spanning over 10,000 systems, with embedded agents in every major species, including Earth. And yet, not a single whisper. No prototype leaks. No orbital construction signatures. No movement of resources large enough to explain the sheer mass of the Titan. It had appeared from nowhere, which meant it had been built somewhere the Union never looked. One whispered word passed between the analysts. "Mars." Back on the Titan, Captain Elias Mercer stood at the viewing deck. Arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Below him stretched the ship's forward hangar, where engineers moved with quiet efficiency beneath the eerie blue glow of internal lights. The stars shimmered beyond the reinforced glass like distant eyes. A door hissed open behind him. "Status?" he asked. Lieutenant Roar stepped in, crisp in uniform, her boots echoing faintly. "The blockade's holding formation. No aggression. But the number of warships has doubled since last hour." Mercer gave a slight nod. "They're watching." "Good. Let them." Roar hesitated. "Sir, they're afraid." "Then they're finally learning." Mercer turned back toward the stars. For decades, humanity had been denied, mocked, exploited, treated like an upstart race too stupid to earn a voice at the table. But humans had learned early on that power didn't come from asking. It came from preparing. While the Union extracted resources and laughed at their attempts to catch up, humanity went quiet. Underground shipyards were constructed beneath the Martian surface. Hidden networks funneled black-budget research into FTL harmonics, hull-phase dampening energy folding. Everything the Union thought impossible, everything they thought humanity was too primitive to attempt. All of it was real, and it was now wrapped in 200 million metric tons of armored, unyielding proof. Across Valera Prime, holograms of the Titan loomed in every military chamber. Every simulation ran the same conclusion. Engagement results catastrophic. One strike from the spinal cannon was enough to vaporize an entire battle group. The Union had never known true fear, not until a species they'd overlooked stared them down with a warship that didn't even bother raising shields. Because it didn't need them. Orotha stared at the live feed on the central display. The Titan drifted regal and slow like a god among insects. "What are they waiting for?" someone whispered. Orotha shook his head. "They're not waiting, they're showing us who they are." Then the message arrived. 5 words. No encryption. No salutation. Just a transmission set to repeat on every major diplomatic frequency. "We are done being ignored. No further contact. No follow-up demands. No ambassador. Just silence. And power." The message echoed through the council chamber. Then again and again. The Chancellor stood, prepared to receive them. Captain Mercer lands. The Titan didn't dock. It loomed. Valera Prime, the most heavily defended station in the galaxy, looked like a gleaming toy beneath the shadow of the massive human warship. Defense arrays bristled with weapons. Fighters swarmed in holding patterns. Orbital cannons were locked in standby. And none of it mattered. Inside the Galactic Council command tower, a dozen military advisors argued over protocol escalation thresholds and contingency fire plans. Chancellor Orothi ignored them all. His eyes remained locked on the live feed, the Titan slowly aligning with the central docking corridor, moving like it had all the time in the universe. "Are we really doing this?" muttered one Alari guard to another. "They didn't ask for permission," the second replied. "They're not asking at all." Orotha turned to his aide. "Have they responded to the docking clearance?" The aide nodded. A single reply, "Chancellor, prepare for conversation." The Chancellor's throat tightened. No titles, no request. Just a calm, declarative phrase, as if the humans were walking into a building they already owned. Aboard the Titan, Captain Elias Mercer stood in the war deck's primary airlock chamber. The atmosphere hissed as the outer seal disengaged, revealing the long docking tube now magnetically connected to Valera Prime's central hub. Behind him, his delegation stood at attention, 6 officers, 2 Terran diplomats, and Admiral Lorna Hayes, who'd insisted on joining despite his objections. "You sure you're ready for this circus?" Mercer asked her quietly. Hayes smirked. "You're the lion. I'm just making sure the clowns don't bite." He couldn't help the short laugh. "They'll try. I hope they do." Mercer stepped forward as the Titan's airlock opened with a mechanical clang that echoed like a drum roll. The docking corridor ahead was pristine, lined with ceremonial banners, security checkpoints, and rows of alien guards in full armor. It felt like walking into a trap, but that was fine, because Mercer was the threat. The docking bay erupted into whispers the moment the human delegation stepped out. Mercer walked at the front, posture straight, expression unreadable. The officers behind him mirrored his movement with crisp precision. None of them flinched at the sight of hundreds of weapons pointed their way. If anything, they looked bored. Standing at the head of the reception committee was Supreme Chancellor Orotha himself, flanked by a wall of dignitaries, translators, and high-ranking officials from nearly every major species. The Chancellor offered a faint, calculated smile. "Captain Mercer," he greeted, voice polite but tight. "Welcome to Valera Prime. I trust your journey was uneventful." Mercer stopped precisely 2 meters from the Chancellor and returned the gaze without blinking. "We had no issues," he said flatly. "Your fleets were wise enough to stand down." A murmur rippled through the gathering. Orotha's jaw twitched. "You are direct," Mercer nodded. "You've ignored us for centuries, Chancellor. I think we've earned the right to be." Behind him, Admiral Hayes kept her hand dangerously close to her sidearm, scanning the guards. None moved. None dared. Orotha gestured toward the chamber. "Shall we?" The Galactic Council chamber was a coliseum of power, its ceiling lined with shimmering banners of every species in the Union. The room hadn't been this full in decades. Every council member was present either in the flesh or projected in brilliant holograms. When Mercer entered, the room fell to a whispering hum. Some delegates stared with curiosity, some with contempt, and others, those who actually read the threat report on the Titan, with something bordering on dread. Mercer took the center position where only high-ranking Union officials were ever allowed to speak. No one stopped him. He looked around, slow and deliberate. "My name is Captain Elias Mercer of the Terran Confederation," he said, voice projecting from speakers embedded in the floor and walls. "I am not here to negotiate. I am here to deliver a message." Orotha remained standing at the Chancellor's perch. "And what message does humanity bring, Captain?" Mercer took one step forward. "Recognition, respect, and justice." Whispers spread through the room like fire. The Cry delegate raised a translucent limb. "Justice for what, exactly?" Mercer's tone sharpened. "For centuries your Union denied us, taxed our colonies into submission, restricted our technology, refused us entry into your so-called equal alliance. You left Earth to rot while you built wonders. You exploited us for trade. You watched us bleed and called it policy." The VX warlord snarled, rising. "You built a warship in secret. You violated Union codes. You come here threatening war." Mercer didn't even flinch. "This isn't a threat," he said coldly. "This is a fact. You no longer get to ignore humanity. You will treat us as equals or face the consequences." Dead silence. Then from the gallery, "And if we refuse?" Mercer smiled. There was no warmth in it. "Then we stop asking." A firestorm of protests erupted. Dozens of voices screamed over each other. Outrage, fear, accusations, demands for sanctions, threats of retaliation, calls for immediate military action. Mercer stood unmoved like a statue carved from steel. And then a single voice cut through the chaos. "Enough." Orotha's voice was calm, but it carried power. The Chancellor stared down at Mercer, then around the room. We've ruled this galaxy through stability and order, but we've also made assumptions, mistakes. He faced Mercer again. Captain, if the Council were to recognize your demands, full sovereignty, technological parity, open trade, reparations, what then? Mercer's eyes narrowed. Then we build, then we recover, and then we remember. Orotha nodded slowly. And if we deny you, Mercer didn't blink. Then the Titan will not be the last warship you see in your skies. Recognition or ruin. The council chamber was a storm waiting to break. Captain Mercer's final words. Then the Titan will not be the last warship you see in your skies, hung in the air like a guillotine. Even the most seasoned delegates, warlords, and strategists sat frozen. It wasn't just the threat, it was the certainty in Mercer's voice. No boast, no bluster, just promise. Orotha exhaled slowly. His eyes never left Mercer. Around him, the great powers of the galaxy shifted in their seats, calculating, whispering, panicking behind carefully neutral expressions. The Zaith minister was first to speak. You built this vessel in secret. You violated galactic surveillance codes. You subverted every regulation. Mercer didn't look at him. We followed your rules, and you made sure those rules always kept us beneath you. The Tari strategist leaned forward. You act as though you're owed something. We are. By whose measure? By every drop of blood we've spilled while being told to be patient. The room darkened as the central holodisplay lit up. Footage began playing. Earth colonies strip mined for rare elements by Union corporations. Human research vessels being denied jump gate access. Protests crushed by local enforcers under economic stabilization mandates. One by one, the receipts piled up systematic suppression under the illusion of governance. You taxed our growth, Mercer said, voice steady. You capped our science. You censored our media. You told us we weren't ready while using our labor to build your empire. He stepped forward. You knew what we could become. That's why you kept us down. Silence. Then Orotha finally said it. We feared what you might become if left unchecked. There it was. The truth, raw, unadorned, and finally admitted. A chill swept through the chamber. Mercer's jaw tightened. Then now, Chancellor, you know you were right to be afraid. A beat passed. Then Orotha raised his voice. Very well, I will ask plainly, what does humanity demand? Mercer didn't hesitate. Full sovereignty over all Terran colonies. Trade access without Union tariffs or restrictions. Technology sharing on equal terms. Reparations for centuries of exploitation. The Cry delegate laughed, a sound like ice cracking. You think you can blackmail the galaxy with one warship? Mercer turned his eyes on the delegate. Do you really think we built only one? Dead silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Even Orotha leaned back, expression unreadable. Because everyone had been wondering the same thing. If humanity had managed to build a Titan undetected, unmatched, what else had they built in the dark? Across the room, the VX warlord stood. A walking mountain of muscle and scars, he towered over most species, his voice like rolling thunder. You think this makes you strong? It makes you alone. You may have forced our attention, but you'll never earn our respect. Mercer didn't blink. Respect was never the goal. Then what is the warlord growled? Mercer's answer was quiet, cold. Balance. A whisper of unease slid through the chamber. You've ruled unopposed for too long, Mercer continued, made yourself gods among lesser species. But you forgot what happens when a god bleeds. The VX warlord sneered. And you think you can make us bleed? Mercer smiled, just slightly. We already have. Orotha tapped the console before him, opening a public channel across the chamber. The vote panel lit up. Holograms shimmered to life around each delegate's seat. The Terran Confederation has issued formal demands, he said. We now vote on whether to recognize humanity as a sovereign power with full parity in the Union. Murmurs exploded again, some angry, some fearful, but none surprised. Vote now. In the Titan's command bridge, Admiral Hayes stood at Mercer's side watching the broadcast. The vote tally began, each entry glowing as it registered. Yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, more yeses, then more. Hayes exhaled. It's going to be close. Mercer said nothing. His hands were folded behind his back, posture firm, but his eyes never left the screen. Back in the chamber, the final votes ticked in. The total 63% in favor. A ripple tore through the delegates, shock, fury, disbelief. Orotha rose slowly. His voice was level, but his shoulders were heavy. The Galactic Union hereby acknowledges the Terran Confederation as a fully sovereign power. Effective immediately, humanity will receive unrestricted autonomy, equal trade access, and technological parity across all member systems. He looked directly at Mercer. This is done. Mercer gave a single nod. It's a start. But even as the words settled, some of the chamber's faces had turned dark. Mercer saw it. He knew this was not victory, not yet. Orothaw's voice rose once more. All Union military forces are to stand down. Any act of aggression toward humanity after this declaration will be considered treason. Outside the station, thousands of warships had been watching the Titan from behind locked targeting arrays. Now, one by one, they disengaged. Weapons powered down, engines cooled. A wall of warships became a curtain of retreat. Hayes grinned. You just made history. Mercer shook his head. No, I just bought us time. Far from Valera Prime, in a shadowed system orbiting a dead star, two ships met in silence. No beacons, no transponders. Inside, a figure in VX armor slammed a fist into a tactical table. This is a betrayal, he spat. Across from him, the Tari strategist nodded coldly. The Council is weak, but not all of us are. You saw their face, the VX said. That Mercer, he thinks he's already won. The Tari's voice was venom. Let him think it. Let all of Earth think it. He activated a small console projecting schematics of Terran colonies' known outposts' old battle records. Then he smiled. We'll show them what real war looks like. The vote. The vote had passed. The chamber had spoken. And yet there was no celebration. Not in the Galactic Council. Not on Valera Prime. Not even aboard the Titan. Because everyone, friend and enemy alike, understood a truth far deeper than protocol. This wasn't peace. It was pressure deferred. Captain Mercer stood silently at the edge of the Council's grand observatory platform, gazing out through the transparent dome. Below, Valera Prime shimmered under orbital light, but the cold blue glow of the Titan above cast a shadow even here. Admiral Hayes joined him, arms folded, face unreadable. They gave us what we asked for, she said. Now we wait to see how fast they try to undo it. They'll stall, delay implementation, redirect funds, push bureaucratic poison through back channels. Hayes snorted. They'll do it while smiling. Mercer nodded. And we'll be ready. Behind them, a steady stream of diplomats and aides rushed through the marble halls, shouting into comms, drafting press statements, positioning themselves for the new political reality that had just been detonated in the heart of galactic civilization. The Titan hadn't fired a single shot, but it had fractured the Union's illusion of control. In the Council's secured military operations room, Supreme Chancellor Orotha watched his advisors argue around him. The humans must have more ships, barked the Zaith strategist. No one builds a vessel like that as a prototype. We have to assume they're now a threat to galactic security, snarled the Cry ambassador. They've been a threat since the day we denied them entry. And now we've armed them with legitimacy. The VX general growled, his voice thick with disdain. Orotha finally raised a hand. We gave them what they already took, he said. What we did today wasn't submission, it was containment. Murmurs rippled. Recognition buys time, Oro continued. Time to re-establish leverage, to understand their capabilities, and if necessary, to neutralize the threat. No one objected, but no one fully agreed either. Because somewhere deep inside, every species at that table knew the balance had already shifted. In orbit aboard the Titan, Commander Reynolds leaned over the tactical console, eyes fixed on the formation data coming in from Union defense grids. They're repositioning again, he muttered. Mercer stepped into the bridge. Aggressive movement. No weapons lock, just drift. Reynolds hesitated. But it's not casual, it's probing, controlled. Admiral Hayes frowned, like they're waiting for a misstep. Exactly. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Then let's not give them one. He tapped a control panel. All systems remain in standby. But tell engineering if they so much as warm up a coil, we hit full combat readiness in 3 seconds. Reynolds nodded. Mercer glanced at the stars beyond the viewport. Let them watch. Let them count turrets and guess at our payload. But never let them see the full hand. Meanwhile, across the Union's inner sectors, the news spread like wildfire. Dozens of alien worlds watched the Titan's emergence play out in synchronized broadcasts. Footage of the Council chamber. Mercer's speech. Orotha's reluctant acceptance. The final vote tally displayed like an execution count. On Zanar 9, protesters waved Terran flags. On Wythar Prime, stock markets plunged at the thought of open Terran competition. On neutral worlds, rumors churned. Earth had superweapons. Earth had AI fleets. Earth had conquered black hole tech. Conspiracy theories bled into classified forums in private intelligence circles. No one could separate truth from fiction anymore. And maybe that was the point. Humanity had walked in from the shadows wearing armor made of myth. And now the entire galaxy had to guess what was real. Back inside Valera Prime's security sector, Mercer and his delegation returned to the docking corridor. The formalities were over. The vote had been cast, but the eyes that followed them now were different. Gone was the amusement, the condescension. In its place, resentment, fear, and unfinished calculations. As they approached the boarding hatch, a voice rang out. Captain Mercer. He turned. Supreme Chancellor Orotha stood alone at the corridor's threshold, his entourage purposefully absent. Mercer waited. Orotha approached, his blue eyes glowing faintly under the corridor lights. You understand what you've done, the Chancellor said. Mercer nodded. I've reminded the galaxy what we are. And what you could become, Oro said quietly. You forced our hand. Some won't forgive that. Some never wanted peace in the first place. You've earned a seat at the table, Captain, but don't mistake that for trust or safety. Mercer stepped forward so close the Chancellor had to tilt his chin slightly to meet his gaze. We didn't come here to be safe. A beat of silence. Then Mercer added, voice low and razor-edged. We came here to change the game. The airlock sealed behind the Terran delegation with a mechanical hiss. Aboard the Titan, the lights shifted to departure mode. Engines hummed. Valera Prime shrank behind them, still magnificent, still gilded in influence, but no longer unquestioned. Hayes stood beside Mercer at the forward viewport. They'll strike eventually. Of course. She looked at him. And when they do, Mercer's stare was hard as steel. Then we show them we didn't just build the Titan. Far away on a barren moon without name, 6 ships gathered in secrecy. No Union markings, no records. Inside the subterranean command chamber, holoscreens flickered. Atari operative addressed the assembled warlords, syndicate leaders, and shadow generals. The Union may have voted, but that vote doesn't bind all of us. He tapped a control rune. The screen changed. It showed Mars, then Earth, then Luna, Titan, Europa. And then, a classified outpost deep beyond Pluto, pulsing with energy, readings no Union probe had ever discovered. They've built more. We all know it. He looked up, eyes gleaming. So we do what we do best. We erase them before they rise. The shadows stir. The vote was public. The declaration was signed. And yet in the void between stars, the real war had already begun. Aboard an unregistered stealth frigate drifting along the edge of the Worm Cloud Nebula, High Strategist Zoran of the Tari Dominion stood in silence. The dim glow of encrypted holoscreens flickered around him, displaying fleet mobilization schedules, black site targeting coordinates, and classified Terran outposts recently uncovered through deep crack intel sweeps. At his back, a coalition of the bitter and the powerful waited, a VX warlord, a Zeller admiral stripped of honor, a disgraced Alari Royale, and several syndicate heads whose empires had withered under Terran competition. They had no banners, no shared creed, only one goal: undo the rise of humanity. Zeron spoke first. They outplayed us in the open. He tapped a control node. Mars, Luna, Europa. Then, Pluto's orbit. But they still bleed in the shadows. The screen zoomed into a flickering signal, a stealth sensor relay the Tari had embedded in Kuiper Belt debris cycles ago. No one, not even the Union's best, had detected it. Until now, it had seen nothing. Now it showed movement. Large movement. What are we looking at? Growled the VX warlord. Zurin answered calmly. A construction cradle. Deep space. Mobile. Massive. Tied to gravitational anchors and surrounded by FTL dampeners. We believe they're birthing something. Another Titan, the Zealar admiral hissed. No, said Zoran. Something worse. The schematics intercepted from a corrupted Mars relay suggest. He paused, letting the tension hang. A fleet. The room darkened. Meanwhile, aboard the Titan, Mercer knew. He didn't need intelligence reports or surveillance relays. He felt it, like the weight of a loaded gun behind his back. Commander Reynolds approached the command console, expression tight. Intercepted chatter out of the Zaith back channels. Code scrambled, but tone is clear. Some factions are calling the vote illegitimate, calling for corrective measures. Mercer didn't turn from the viewport. The stars spun slowly past, cold and distant. How many factions? Too many. Hayes joined them from the tactical bay. They're planning something. A strike sabotage. We don't know, but the fact they're already talking means the vote didn't satisfy them. It only scared them. Mercer's voice was calm, measured. Good. Hayes raised an eyebrow. You want them scared? No, he said, finally turning. I want them sloppy. Far beneath the crust of a dead world classified as uninhabitable by the Union for decades, a dozen dropships touched down silently. No insignia, no formal registry. Inside, Tari agents began assembling a mobile command rig protected by disruption fields and synthetic terrain mimics. An entire brigade of VX shock troopers disembarked behind them. This was not reconnaissance. This was staging. The Tari strategist Ravel activated a projection of Earth's defensive periphery. The Terrans are overextended. Their reach outpaces their ability to monitor. We'll cut the head off the serpent before the rest of the body knows it's bleeding. The VX general grunted. You sure about that? You saw their response time on Valera Prime. Ravel smiled, and that was just their flagship. They won't expect something this fast, this direct. He tapped the display. 3 colonies, simultaneous strikes, civilian panic, supply line disruption, communication jammers, and 1 targeted assassination. The name glowed in red on the screen. Captain Elias Mercer. Back aboard the Titan, Mercer stood alone in his quarters. The room was Spartan bare metal walls, a desk cluttered with decrypted Union data packets, and a single photo of Earth's orbit from Luna's perspective, a reminder of home, of why this mattered. His personal console pinged, a direct transmission. Source black site, Mars Aegis. He opened it, only 2 lines of text. Surveillance net tripped, outer Pluto vector timeline to engagement unknown, enemy mobilizing. Mercer stared at it, then slowly reached for his communicator. Bridge, go to silent readiness, protocol Indigo. Commander Reynolds' voice answered instantly. Sir, Union factions are preparing an unsanctioned strike. Stealth fleets, high-risk vectors. Hayes chimed in on another channel. Proof. Mercer didn't answer. He didn't need proof. He had history. They didn't accept the vote, he said. They're buying time, and now they're going to test us. He stared at the screen again. No one's ready for what happens next. Back in the worm cloud, Nebula High strategist Zuran finalized the plan. Simultaneous hits. Terran infrastructure first. If they respond with conventional force, we scatter and vanish. If they retaliate with Titans, we trigger the contingency. The VX warlord snarled. They'll retaliate hard. Let them, Zuran replied. Let the galaxy see them for what they are. And what's that? Zuran smiled. The monsters we always feared they could be. But what they didn't know, what none of them had accounted for, was that Mercer wasn't planning to wait for the first blow. On Mars, deep beneath Olympus, Mon's engines roared to life. From within the hidden cradle, a second warship stirred. Sleeker, faster, meaner, codenamed Oblivion. The line in the stars. The Titan hovered above Jupiter's orbit, silent and still like a blade resting on the edge of a whetstone. All across the Sol system, deep space sensors screamed in silence. Interference swept across Terran arrays. Disruption fields blinked like static across Mars, Europa, Titan, and the black site near Pluto. The threat had arrived, but so had the response. Status report, Mercer snapped, stepping onto the Titan's bridge. Commander Reynolds stood at the main console, eyes hard. 3 enemy task groups just dropped from fold near the Oort line. No ID, no official Union tags, but make no mistake, they're here for us. Hayes swept up beside him. Stealth configured, VX pattern, at least 1 Tari signal controller embedded. No diplomats, no hails. Just guns, Mercer muttered. Plenty, Reynolds added. Multiple ship classes, frigate escorts, heavy cruisers, 1 capital class retrofitted for cloak and strike. How close? Too close. They're repositioning near our comm relays and defense satellites. Not firing. Yet. Mercer nodded once. Activate all internal countermeasures. Ready phase 1 protocol. He paused. Do not engage. The crew blinked. Even Hayes furrowed her brow. Sir, we're not the ones crossing the line, Mercer said quietly. Not yet. But on the outer edge of the solar system, someone already had. Near the ice moon Nix, a Terran civilian relay station flickered, then vanished in a burst of plasma. Unprovoked, unannounced, and recorded live. Within seconds, the data hit the Titan's bridge. Reynolds stared at the screen, voice cold. Civilian outpost destroyed. 43 lives lost. No survivors, no warning. Hayes clenched her fists. That's it. Mercer didn't speak, he just turned. Bring the Oblivion online. Across the solar system, black site codes unlocked. Beneath Mars, massive platform clamps disengaged. Silos slid open along the flanks of Olympus Mons. With a burst of grav thrust, a warship unlike anything ever seen in the galaxy launched skyward. It wasn't as big as the Titan, but it didn't need to be, because it was built to hunt. On the bridge of the Oblivion, Commander Sora Keel sat with her hands resting lightly on the command chair. Former Black Ops, battle-hardened in the Rim Wars, handpicked by Mercer himself. Her ship's neural arrays came online in under 6 seconds. Weapon systems began cycling through targets automatically. Primary engagement coordinates uploaded, she said over secure channel. Rules of engagement, asked her AI tactician. Full threat response. Pause. Burn them. Back aboard the Titan, Hayes was already coordinating defensive positions with Earth Command, but her eyes never left Mercer. "You waited for them to fire first." Mercer nodded. "Now we're not retaliating, we're cleansing." Hayes smiled grimly. "Hell of a difference." In the outer system, the Oblivion broke through the clouds of dust near Charon's orbit like a predator unleashed. VX cruisers turned to face it. Too late. The Oblivion's rail batteries fired 6 sequential shots in under 3 seconds. The first 2 punched holes clean through the lead destroyer. The third caused a core detonation. The remaining rounds crippled the trailing ship before it could fire. Then the Oblivion vanished from sensors. Not cloaked, gone. Microfold jumped short-range, high-energy bursts no Union ship had ever pulled off in combat. The VX fleet opened fire blindly, and the Oblivion appeared behind them, raking the command ship with plasma lances that sliced through composite armor like silk. The message was clear. Humanity didn't just survive, they had evolved past prediction. Inside the Galactic Council chambers on Valera Prime, emergency lights flashed. Representatives screamed over one another. "The Terrans have attacked." "No, they were provoked. We never authorized a strike." "Those fleets were rogue." Orotha stood slowly, fury in his eyes. "No," he growled, voice low and hard. "You may not have authorized it, but someone here did." Holograms lit up. The destroyed outpost. The enemy fleet signatures. The Oblivion's counterstrike. Merciless. Surgical. Complete. And then the worst revelation of all. The data packets recovered from the wreckage of the VX fleet included Union military encryption stamps. The council chamber descended into chaos. Orotha raised his voice over the clamor. "Let it be known humanity did not strike first." He turned to the diplomatic feeds broadcasting across the galaxy. They responded as any sovereign power would, decisively and without mercy. He turned to his aide. "Broadcast it all." Back aboard the Titan, Mercer stood on the observation deck watching the data come in. 3 hostile fleets neutralized. 1 secret command node gone. No human casualties. The galaxy now knew the cost of testing Earth's patience. Reynolds entered quietly. "Oblivion reports mission success. VX presence eliminated. Enemy reinforcements turned back after first engagement." Hayes joined them, arms crossed. "You've forced the Union's hand, Elias." Mercer didn't answer immediately. "Then no." He turned slowly. "They forced mine." On the outer edges of the Union, in a deep void where signals barely traveled, the surviving members of the rogue coalition gathered again. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. "We underestimated them," one whispered. "No," said another. "We misunderstood them." "Then what are they?" The room was quiet for a long time. Then the Tari strategist answered. "They're not the underdogs anymore. They're the apex." They should have feared us sooner. The fire was over. The galaxy was silent, and Earth had drawn its line. Aboard the Titan, Captain Elias Mercer stood alone in the Wardeck's observation bay, watching as the last remnants of the rogue fleet blinked out of the starfield. Gone. Vaporized. Not just defeated, erased. Below him, the Terran flag hovered in holographic suspension, bathed in crimson tactical light. Around it were the live feeds from half the known galaxy, every major world, every system, every neutral station. The broadcast didn't need commentary. They had footage. The Oblivion's assault. The VX command carrier rupturing in real time. The message from Earth's central command that followed. Retaliation complete. No further warnings will be issued. In the Galactic Council chambers, no one moved. Chancellor Orotha stood at the center, his tendrils tightly coiled, his jaw set with something between fury and surrender. The political fallout had detonated faster than any plasma charge. Emergency resignations poured in. Alliance treaties crumbled under public pressure. Neutral powers condemned the rogue factions, too little too late. And still not a single delegate dared to raise a vote against the Terrans. Because deep down they understood. This wasn't fear. This was adjustment. They had miscalculated. Humanity had shown them mercy once. They wouldn't do it again. The Terran response team had released a final statement, clear, succinct, and loaded with the kind of calm only the truly prepared could deliver. The galaxy did not welcome us, so we arrived without asking. We will not kneel. We will not wait, and we will not forget. Weeks passed. The Union reorganized. Factions dissolved. Power shifted. But the Titan remained in orbit above Valera Prime, not attacking, not moving, just watching. It didn't need to fire a shot. It had already won. On Mars, in the buried command chamber beneath the surface, Admiral Hayes debriefed with Mercer in private. She scrolled through post-conflict intelligence messages intercepted from fractured coalition members. Neutral leaders requesting diplomacy, fringe empires offering alliances. Funny, she said, how fast the galaxy remembers manners when their fleet's on fire. Mercer nodded, unreadable. They're not afraid of us, not really, not yet. Hayes blinked, not yet. Mercer looked at her eyes hard. They're still hoping it was a fluke. One ship, one captain, one moment. She exhaled slowly. But it wasn't. No, he said. It was a warning. Valera Prime's skyline shimmered with repair drones as Chancellor Orotha stood on his private balcony, watching the Titan's silhouette blot out the stars. Behind him, his advisors waited with breath held. But he didn't turn. Have the humans made any further demands, he asked. No, Chancellor said his aide. They've been silent. Orotha's voice was distant. They've said everything they needed to. And with that, he turned back toward the stars where the Terran warship hovered unblinking, unmoving, unforgiving. Aboard the Titan, Mercer opened a secure channel. One message, one recipient, all systems, all species, all frequencies. The last message of Earth. We came in silence. You met us with arrogance. Now you meet us with fear. That's not on us. That's on you. Let this be the last time the galaxy forgets what we are. He closed the channel and walked away. Across 10,000 systems, the message played, over marketplaces, over military briefings, over backroom deals in royal halls. And in everyone, a new realization took root, not just about humanity's strength, but their resolve. They had been underestimated, overlooked, controlled, but no longer. The Titan hadn't started a war. It had ended an illusion. On the far edge of the galaxy, in a forgotten outpost where news reached weeks late, a Zalar child looked up at the sky and asked, "Are the humans really that dangerous?" His mother didn't answer immediately. She just stared upward, eyes distant, then whispered, "They're not dangerous, child." Pause. They're done asking.